Hello, everyone. How's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and let's play some Baldur's Gate 3, shall we? Doing a complete beginner's guide for the game. And what we're going to do here is start up a brand new game so that you can watch and see if this is the game you might want to play, or if you've recently purchased a game, you can follow along and play along. And I'm going to explain everything I've learned playing the game so far. I'm a person who has played the previous two Baldur's Gate games. I've played Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition with friends. I've played other D&D 5e games like Solasta, and I played Divinity, which is a previous game by Larian. So I have a lot of experience with the developer and with D&D. And also, as I've been streaming this game, I've been getting tons of very, very good advice from very knowledgeable people about how to play the game, understanding the intricacies of it, and gotten all sorts of great tips and tricks that I want to share with you. So I'm not going to spoil the story in this guide at all. I'm not going to tell you the fastest way to do things. We're not going to be talking about min-maxing or getting the best character as early as you can in the game. But instead, I'm going to explain everything about the game to you from the ground up. How to play, the UI, the combat system, all of the systems in the game that we come to naturally as we progress through the game. And this will help you get a foothold in this game because it's really sensational. I'm blown away by how awesome this game is. And let me tell you what, if you've never played a Baldur's Gate before, if you've never played D&D, if you've never played an RPG before, but you've heard about this game and you wanted to check it out, I'm telling you, you can still jump in. It's still a game that has a nice access point for new players as long as you just get the fundamentals, which we're going to go over here. So I'm going to start a new game. And when you choose new game, you get to set your difficulty level. You can go explorer level, which is like, I just want to look at the world. I don't want tough combat, and I want to see the story. You can do balanced, which is kind of in the middle of these modes. And you can do tactician, which is a very tough campaign. The combat is much harder. They put in some restrictions, like you need double food to get a full rest, and enemies have more abilities and things. So for your first time playing, I highly recommend we're going to go with balanced. If you want an easier experience and you want to just chill and not stress too much, go explorer if you want. That's totally fine. But for this guide, we're going to go balanced. Now, if you want to watch my Let's Play of the game, which you can see me streaming and starting the game, I actually am playing in Tactician mode, which is much more difficult because I have a lot of experience with these games and I wanted to challenge. But I think if you're coming in, balanced is the intended way to play, and that's how we're going to do it. So I'm just going to click Start Game. And you go right into this amazing opening cutscene. It's quite unpleasant. This tentacle man is, in D&D lore, a mind flayer. And we get one too. right. So after that very disturbing cutscene, the game jumps into character creation. You could see we were looking through the point of view of our own character in that kind of like prisoner situation that we were in. And, you know, the lore about the game, about the races, the species, the flora and the fauna, all of the history of, you know, Baldur's Gate, the Sword Coast, the Forgotten Realms, anything relevant is in the game. So don't worry if you have no prior knowledge of it. They present all of this in the game for you so you can read and get well versed on what's going on if you like. But if you don't like, you don't really have to pay attention to that. You can just focus on the immediate story if that's more your speed. Now, I'm going to reset my tutorials because I've already played the game, and you can always do this at any point, and the tutorials are very, very helpful to getting you into the game. So I'm going to say reset tutorials, and now we open up to this very, very deep character creation screen. So we are going to be, one of these. This is our starting character right here in the middle. And, you can kind of use the left mouse to drag them around and rotate to see the appearance. And this is not necessarily who we will be. This is just what it rolled randomly. You can click randomize again and just get like a totally other appearance if you want. Whatever you're looking for. So, you can just kind of go random. And how about this? This is not only just changing your appearance, but this character has a species, which is drow or drow, and then we're a monk, which is our class, like what kind of a fighter we are or what we do in the game. And that's all been chosen for us, and there's information that explains, and it might be overwhelming, but we're going to walk through it. Now, I'm going to actually click custom character. If you want, you can just keep rolling until you get something that looks good, like, oh, here's another drow warlock, and here's a gnome druid that looks awesome. You can just keep, look at this. Warlock, wizard, the half-orc bard, amazing stuff. I think that this game is fine allowing you to play as whatever species and class you want. But for a new player, I'm going to choose something for us that's very stout and formidable. Now, these characters right here that are like the origin characters, you have the choice at this point of either creating your own custom character by like randomizing everything, or you can play as an origin character down here. So you could be Lizelle or Asterion. But if you choose to not be one of the origin characters, these are all people that you will meet in the game as it progresses, and they have their own fully developed backstory and everything like that, and their own personalities. Now, I myself like letting these characters live in the world and choosing my own character that represents me, that I can create the personality that I want in a kind of a role-playing fashion by making decisions. Not that you can't do that with the other characters, but they have their own packages, as it were. So, again, choose whatever you want. If you want to be Shadowheart, rock it, be Shadowheart. But if you make a custom character, then you will meet Shadowheart, Gale, Lizelle, Will, Asterion, Karlach in the game. But instead, I'm going to just go over here, and you see how all of these are like checked because we did randomize, but I'm going to instead go over here to the race, and I'm going to select these myself. So on the left panel, you can choose what race you want to be. Now, any of these are fine, but I'm just going to go ahead and be a dwarf, okay? And I'm going to select a sub-race. Now, when you're choosing your race, I'm choosing dwarf, by the way, because I want to be stout for our character. I feel like when we're beginning as new players, I want the character that we control, mostly, to be formidable and not easily killed. That being said, when you're in battle, you will have a party of 4 once you fill up, and you could take control of whomever you want. So you don't have to necessarily get attached to this character. You could play as somebody else if you like them better. But I like to have a strong player character. And when you look at dwarf, it says, as durable and unyielding as their homes of stone. Dwarves are some of the finest warriors, miners, and smiths of Faerun. Faerun is the world that we're in. So at this point, what you're saying is, all right, what am I doing here? And I get all these features. We can move 25 feet per turn is our base racial speed. Now, let me tell you, 25 feet per turn is actually less than like a human can move because a dwarf is smaller, right? So you don't get to move as much. You have dwarven combat training, and if you are mousing over anything, it'll give you a tooltip, and then if there's more to it, there will be this kind of box on the top of the tooltip that says inspect. I'm using mouse and keyboard. You can push T to inspect, and this will allow you to look at the tooltip in more detail, and then you can mouse over highlighted words like proficiency to figure out what that means, and then you can push T again to lock that tooltip in place, and then mouse over skill, and on and on and on to get more information. Now, all I'm doing is looking at this, and it says we have proficiency with a battle axe, a hand axe, a light hammer, and a war hammer. Very good. And we have dark vision, so we can see in the dark. And we also have dwarven resilience, which means we get advantage on savings throws against poison, and we have resistance to poison damage. Okay, so that's very nice. The other thing is, when you go over here to the right panel, this is our character panel giving us information. It says we're a gold dwarf, which is our sub-race. We're a cleric, which is the class, but we're not going to be this necessarily. This is the god that we worship as a cleric. These are our stats. These are the classic Dungeons & Dragons attributes or ability scores that determine your prowess in certain activities in the game. So, for example, this is strength. If there's anything that requires you to be strong, like moving a heavy object in the world, bashing through something, or attacking in combat with strength-based attacks, then you will be using your strength score. So the higher, the better. Generally, these scores go from 3 to 18 at first level. You traditionally would roll 3 dice 6, and you could get a score of 3 to 18, and then you have modifiers. But these scores are a little bit higher than that, as we are kind of like, more powerful. But you can adjust these if you would like, and you can mouse over these to see what they do. So here's our strength. Dexterity is like how fast we are, measures our agility, to dodge out of the way of things. Attacks with ranged weapons or dexterity-based attacks, being sneaky, these kinds of things. Constitution is our stamina and physical endurance. It affects how many hit points we have. It checks against poison and some negative ailments. Intelligence is our memory and mental power. So you use this not only for like spellcasting if you're a spellcaster, but any skill check within the world that would require intelligence. You are using this to determine your ability to figure something out that is intelligence based. Wisdom is our senses and intuition, and it reflects like how strong you are with spellcasting if you're a cleric, a druid, or a ranger. And then charisma, which is your personality, your force of personality, as it says here. And this affects spellcasting for bards, paladins, sorcerers, warlocks, and it also influences like your trade prices with people and sometimes your reaction from other people. So we'll talk more about these as they come up, and skill checks as they come up. Again, there's a lot to throw at you, but what we're doing in this guide is we're going to go through it in a very organic fashion so that you can see it all happening and understand the thought process and the action behind it so that you can make decisions in your own game. Now, I'm going to be a dwarf just because I want to be and because I feel like they're pretty stout. And then what we're going to do is say, this is good, we're a dwarf. But I'm going to go over here to sub-race. So most races have a sub-race, all right? So like even if I'm a human, okay, I don't have a sub-race. But if I'm a drow or a halfling, I might have a sub-race. But I'm going to go back to dwarf. And if you have sub-race as an option, very good. and you need to choose it. Now, again, you can just go random, but I'm going to pick one that reflects what I want to do, and I want to be good fighting in combat, so I can go Shield Dwarf, and Shield Dwarves get this sub-race feature of light and medium armor proficiency, okay, which seems pretty good. Gold Dwarfs get this ability to, they have more hit points. That's actually pretty nice, too. And the Durgar are like underground dwarves, and they live in the Underdark, and so you get some other abilities here if you want. Boy, where do I want to go? No, I like the extra hit points. That's great. Because we don't need these proficiencies, because I'll show you why in a moment. I'm going to go to class, and this is the big one. So when you go to class, you get, right now, in the vanilla package of Baldur's Gate, you have these 12 starting options. And you really need to think about, what do you want to do? Do you want to be just a fighter who's a sword and board, go into combat style fighter? Well, okay, that's fine. Do you want to be a spellcaster? Do you want to be a support character? Do you want to be a sneaky rogue? Do you want to be a martial artist? Do you want to be an inspiring musician? Do you want to be a nature loving druid? What are you interested in? Do you want to be a wild barbarian? We're going to be a paladin. So what are paladins? Paladins are fueled by an oath that they swear to a god to uphold justice and righteousness, and we're a beacon of hope in dark times. Paladins are incredibly powerful because they're kind of like a hybrid between a fighter and a cleric. They have good fighting ability, and then they have some healing as well. It makes them very hard to kill. They get to wear heavy armor, and I like them quite a bit. They're very powerful in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and I think they're a nice starting choice because you will have a character that is versatile as well as, very, very stout in combat. Now, if you don't want to be lawful and you don't like the idea of being a paladin, you have your heart set on cursing people as a warlock, go for it, okay? But in this guide, we're just going to go with a paladin and work through that. Now, when you choose your class, you see down here, here's our actions that we get. These are abilities that we get because of the class. So paladins have lay on hands, which is the ability to just touch someone and heal them based on a certain amount that is governed by our hit points. So you can actually see right now we get to heal somebody, and we have charges of this each day. It's not a spell, it's just an ability that we have. So it's just some extra healing. We can use this on ourselves, and we can use this on others. Now, if I look at this, you can see that it's used, we recharge once per long rest. We get the charges back for this. It takes an action, which is something in combat. You can do this out of combat as well. It requires you to be able to touch them. So you only can do this to somebody who's within 5 feet of you. And then you also get Divine Sense, which I'm going to push T. And this gives you advantage on attack rolls against Celestials, Fiends, and the Undead. So it's kind of like you're sensing evil in the area. And advantage means that instead of rolling one dice to see if you hit, normally in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, it's a dice 20 system, meaning most of your rolls are with dice 20 to see if you complete a skill check or you complete an attack roll. And you roll a dice 20, and the higher the number, the better, usually. And in this case, you would get to roll 2 dice if you have advantage and pick the highest one. So this is great. So if you're attacking the undead, you can use this as a bonus action, and it lasts for 2 turns, and it just makes it so you hit them more readily. So this is perfect because, you can imagine that we might encounter lots of fiends, undead, and celestials. And again, you can look in the codex of the game to get more information about what enemies are celestials, what are fiends, and what are the undead. So this is what we get starting out. And we also get this Channel Oath charge, which fuels certain actions that we'll look at when we get into the game. Now, another thing I want to show you is over here, you can see that, all right, our stats have been changed. Our stats have been changed because they give us stats that are kind of like what the game feels would be good for our character. So we have very high strength and we have very high charisma. These are favored stats by a paladin. Remember, as we talked about, charisma improves paladin spellcasting. So all of our spell work that we're going to be doing, and paladins do indeed get spells, we get better at these the higher our charisma, and we want to do good strength because, we want to attack well. So this is the kind of stat distribution that we have. Now you see right here, this is +1 initiative, and this is how many temporary hit points we have. I don't think we need to worry about that at the moment, but this is something, we'll look at that in a moment. Now, currently, you can see these are our proficiencies. Proficiencies govern what types of equipment you can use without penalty, or use at all, to be sure. So, in this case, because we're a paladin, we get that heavy armor and shield proficiency. We can use, all armor. We can use shields. We get these skills to start out, trained in religion, insight, intimidation, and persuasion. And we are proficient with all simple weapons, all martial weapons, battle axes, hand axes, light hammers, and warhammers. So we can use pretty much any weapon or armor that's for strict melee fighting with this character right now. So we have a subrace chosen, we have a race chosen, we have a class chosen. Now let's go to our subclass. So subclass is something that is specific for what class you choose, and you get some options here. Again, we get 3 options. We can go Oath of the Ancients, we can go Oath of Devotion, or we can go Oath of Vengeance. So Oath of Vengeance means that it says you have set aside even your own purity to right wrongs and deliver justice to those who have committed grievous sins. And this means we get Inquisitor's Might, which allows us at a bonus action to deal 2 radiant damage and daze enemies. So it lasts for 2 turns. We can just basically put this on our weapon. And we also get the Oath of Vengeance tenets, which means we can fight greater evil, and we get no mercy for the wicked. So you can brand heretics and fight them if you want to do the Oath of Vengeance. The Oath of Devotion is the ideal of the knight in shining armor. You act with honor and virtue to protect the weak and pursue the greater good. We get Holy Rebuke, which means that we put an aura on somebody, and if they get hit, the person takes damage from hitting them. And then we get the Oath of Devotion tenets, which is courage, which means we can stride dauntlessly into action. We have compassion, and we have duty. And these will these are abstract terms right now, but they will apply strictly to abilities that we get in the game as we level up. And then there's Oath of the Ancients, which we started with, which is we get a little bit more healing. You fight on the side of light in the cosmic struggle against darkness to preserve the sanctity of life and the beauty of nature. So we would get this, heal yourself and nearby allies for 5 hit points, and then you regain another hit points next turn. It's a bonus action, so it's even more healing. I'm going to pick Oath of Devotion for us because I like the Knight in Shining Armor as, just a beacon of trying to be good, but as you see in this game, trying to have the moral high ground is very challenging. It's a game with a lot of complexity when it comes to your decisions, morality, what's the right thing to do. So it's not as black and white as a Oath of Devotion Paladin might make it seem, but we're going to pretend like we can, make everything all right and be this knight. And we're going to go for Oath of Devotion. Of course, you could go healing, you could go, anger and smite your foes, whichever you want. Then you choose your background. Your background is kind of like your past before you became an adventurer, and it gives you certain benefits, most notably some skills. So if we're an acolyte, we get insight and religion. So if we change this to charlatan, you'll see that our skills over here change. Now I'm going to actually say, what if we wanted to go soldier? Well, if we go soldier as our background, we get athletics and intimidation along with insight and persuasion. So I'm actually going to be choose soldier for us as our background because I like the athletics skill. Now, skills we'll look at as they happen in the game, but just speaking very quickly about them, whenever something happens in the game where it's your ability to jump over a pit or to sneak or to bash through a door or to to try to persuade someone in a conversation, or to dodge out of the way of a boulder that's falling at you, or to, break out of a grapple that an enemy has on you. All kinds of things that can happen in terms of interactions in combat and outside of combat in the game. You will need to make a roll that is governed by your skill. And so the more skillful you are in that area, the better chance you have of performing well. So athletics is going to be great for, it says right here, helps you shove and resist being shoved, performing physical stunts. Insight is for reading people, detecting lies. Intimidation is for threatening and inducing fear in your enemies. And persuasion is trying to charm people. And all of these come up at different times. You can play whatever character you want. It's what's so beautiful about the game. There's so many choices that you have. I'm just going to do this so that I make sure that we have a nice fighting background. And then ability scores. You see that they've generated ability scores for us over here. But the game gives you the option of min-maxing to your heart's desire. And you can use recommended, which is what's given to us, or you can adjust these and raise them and lower them. I'm not going to change any of these. I'm fine with this starting stat set, and I really feel like if you're a new player, keeping as much of this fixed as you can will help decision fatigue, help you get into the game, and help you avoid making a bad decision with your character. Like, for example, if you were like, I'm going to be a paladin who has incredibly high intelligence, that's not a wise decision unless you plan on multi-classing or something later in the game. Really, you want to try to stick to what your character is good at, but if you wanted to deviate slightly from this and maybe, have a higher dexterity or something like that, then go for it. I'm just going to pick this. I don't want to say you can't change it because you can do whatever you want. I'm just giving you recommendations that I think will make the game easier to understand and give you a better experience by making you a stronger character in terms of just handling the challenges that the game presents. All right, and now at this point, everything looks good over here, but we can edit our appearance. So do we want to change our appearance? So we can go, do we want to be, randomize this and be male? Okay, so we can look at this, right? And we can say, randomize my appearance, make me look really cool, and let's just keep rolling and see if we get something that jumps off the page at us. Well, guess what? You could sit here and click all day. I know people who have spent hours actually in the Baldur's Gate character creation screen, and it's quite robust. It's awesome. But I have something very specific that I like to do for our channel, so I'm going to go to skin color, and you can see that they give you these, like, normal skin colors for a dwarf. So for whatever species or race you choose, you get a kind of palette that is considered typical for that group. But if you click up here where it says all skin colors, you can just see everything and you can just go wild. Now, I'm going to choose a nice bluish color for our character. And let's see. No, that's not right. What other choices? Oh, here we... No. Ice. Dusk. Oh, very good. All right, awesome. Oh, wait. Marid, Azure Storm. Wisteria. Ice. Okay, great. So I'm going to go with this more bluish green. And I'm going to say perfect, confirm. And as far as our face goes, I am going to pick... This face looks good. And then we're going to go down here. I like this. And we're going to change some other things. So I'm going to just change the hair right away so I can get a feel for how this should look. And I like some of the amazing hairstyles that you can do in the game. This is okay. This is, very dressed up and ready to go. This is getting closer to a Knight of Camelot, if you know what I mean. Ooh, look at this. No, that's a ponytail. I was hoping it was more like a mullet. This is getting better in that direction. This is a mullet with a top knot. So, okay. There you go. And we're going to go to the hair color, and I'm going to just go with this kind of nice blonde gold, confirm. And the highlights will be this color, good. And the color will be this. Okay, great. Well, no, how about this? Fantastic. And then I'm going to go to facial hair, and, well, we need facial hair. We are a dwarf indeed. And let's see what seems the best. There it is. So now I'm looking really good. I like how this is appearing. I don't know where this purple is coming into my appearance. Maybe it's in makeup. No. Body art. No. All right. General. I don't want any scarring. I want to be nice and smooth looking. Okay, this looks pretty good. I like how we're getting so far. And let's see here. Makeup, lip tint. Let's have some normal looking... Oh. Oh boy. Okay, these blend in a little bit better. That looks good. Eyes, we're not going to go with heterochromia. We're just going to go with some blue eyes. There we go. And now I think we're looking like a pretty nice dwarf. This is great. Look at my beard shaking. How about that? I love it. Okay. And there we go. Okay. This is a stouter body, though. So body type 2 is actually stouter. Body type 1 is a little bit more diminutive or feminine, depending on how you want to characterize that. And I'm just going to go ahead and choose this. And now we have to kind of redo some stuff. But I like this. Looks better. This is what we're going for. Okay, great. All right, to spare you, I just went ahead and did it all really quickly. And here we go. I love how this looks. I think we are ready to rock. We are looking like the channel avatar that you can see in the bottom left or right of the screen. And I feel like, boy, we could get some sunglasses and just be doing very well. So I'm going to say proceed, and we need to enter a character name. I think this looks great. We're going to be Dr. and Comp Tutorial, and this is us. We are a level 1 Gold Dwarf Paladin. Go.
You need a guardian. Choose one.
Now, we need to choose our guardian, okay? Which is just kind of a character that I don't want to explain too much, but this isn't somebody that will be in your party. This is kind of somebody who interacts with you in another way. I'll just keep this as is. Now, I will say one last thing before we go. You can do the Dark Urge also as your origin. This is a completely different storyline, and this is if you want to have like a murderous past and kind of go full evil with your character. I'm not doing that, but you certainly can. And from what I understand, it is an entirely different playstyle. The game it does have a background story for that, and the whole experience, not the whole experience, but a lot of the experience will be different if you choose that. We're not. And let's go to our guardian. So who do we want as our guardian? Well, how about this lady right here? This elven lady looks just fine. So we're going to say we've got this elven guardian, and you can, again, do everything you want right here to affect the person's appearance. You're not choosing their class or their abilities or anything like that. You just can customize how they look, but I'm fine with this, and I'm going to jump into the game. Gotta ring that warning bell when you see this. There is a giant snail tentacle ship. This is not good. Look at this. Gives you a sense of how big this ship is, that dragons are looking small comparatively. Alright, he teleported to another plane or dimension. Dragons are in pursuit. And now we're someplace much more sinister. I know that beautiful dwarf. All right. So, after those amazing cutscenes and the fantastic character creation, now it's time to play. Journal updated. Escape the Nautiloid. That is the ship that we are in. And now we've got some tutorials. Basic movement. Move to start your adventure. Click on the ground or hold the left mouse button to move toward your cursor. Now, just as a heads up, you can play this game. I'm playing on PC. You can play it even with the controller, and I think it plays really well. But for this, I figure most people are doing mouse and keyboard, so I'm going to be talking about those controls. It does change the UI a bit, and the controls if you use a controller, so just as a heads up, some people prefer it. I'm going to left click, and you see my character can move like this, and I can rotate the camera by holding down the middle mouse button and just dragging the mouse around. I can click over here, I can hold left and just kind of move my character like they said. And let's see what we've got. We are in the Nautiloid, the Illithid or Mind Flayer's ship. It looks to have suffered a little bit of damage. My pod that I was in has broken apart. let's take a moment. Even though things look really dire, and they are dire, okay, there's flames, there's all this stuff, just understand that right now in the game, you are under no time limit. You can just kind of look around and, explore. If you cover certain areas and trigger events, yes, then you will be on your way out of here. But right now, I can just stand here and talk about what we see. So first of all, this is obviously my character right here in the center of the screen. In the upper right, you have a mini-map radial, and it has some buttons on it. You can zoom in and out. You can center the camera on yourself, and it shows you when you mouse over it the key bindings for these commands, if any exist. You can also click on this compass to go to the world map, or push M to do that. Your journal, which it just told us that we could access by pushing J, or clicking on this quill right here at the bottom center of the minimap radial, or you can go to ping an area, which is useful if you are playing multiplayer, which you can in this game. Now, we're, of course, just talking about the single-player experience. Now let's look at the bottom center of the heads-up display, or HUD, or UI, whatever you'd like to call it, and discuss what's going on here. The character that I have selected, I only have one to choose from right now, but it's us. And here's our portrait. It shows how many hit points we have. We have 12 out of 12 hit points, so we're at full health. This shield opens up our inventory and equipment. We can also just push I to do that. This is the current weapon that we have equipped right here, and it's our Warhammer. Right now, we are using our melee weapon set, so below the Warhammer, which is just to the right of our portrait, there's these 4 buttons that allow us to change some of our loadout. We can switch to dual wielding if we want. We can change to our ranged weapon set if we want to shoot things. And we can also toggle to a light source if we want to carry a torch or something like that around. Then moving to the right, all of these abilities are things that my character can do, and they're color-coded based on what type of abilities they are. So, for example, this right here is an ability called Jump, which is extraordinarily important. You can do it in combat and out of combat. One of the big things that I want to tell you about the game is that jumping out of combat is actually a way to explore the environment, and it's not immediately clear that that's something that you can do. At least it wasn't to me, but it's a key way to reach secret areas and things, to just jump around. It's also a very, very powerful ability to use in combat. And you could see I've got some more abilities. I can dip my weapon in poison or something. I can push people by shoving, or enemies. I can also do these active abilities, like I can hide. I can throw something. I can run or dash. I can disengage from combat. And then I've got some fighting abilities: Weakening Strike, Backbreaker, Concussive Smash, Main Hand. And then I have some class abilities, spells, like Holy Rebuke, Lay on Hands, and Divine Sense. These are just some of my abilities that I'm starting out with. Now, I can organize these based on actions. Actions in this game are represented by this green circle, and you can do them once per turn. If you're not in combat, that doesn't matter as much, but when you're in combat, you get typically 1 action per turn unless you have an ability that gives you more. And so I can click on actions, for example, and now this entire bottom panel is only going to show me abilities that are actions. It won't show me bonus actions, okay? It's only going to show me things that are actions. If I click on this orange triangle, it will show me things that are bonus actions. If I click on Lay on Hands, it will go to that ability. And if I click on Channel Oath Charge, well, guess what? It'll go to that ability. Now, if I instead click back on any of these again to toggle them off, it will show me all of my abilities. Right now, action, bonus action, these things aren't as important, but we'll talk about them when we get into combat to understand the advantages and the timing of them. And you can resize your UI. You can slide this over if you want to make more space down here. You can move these around. And then over on the right are some consumable items I have. I have a scroll of Revivify, for example, that can revive a companion, and I have some healing potions I can drink to get some hit points back. Now, if I move to the right, I see that I can enter turn-based mode at any time. Right now, when you're just exploring and you're not in combat, the way this game works is you're just moving around and things are happening without a concern for actions and turns. But if you click on this, immediately I jump into turn-based mode, and it gives you a tutorial that says you've entered turn-based mode. The game has paused around you, and time is broken down into rounds that represent 6 seconds each, which is what we normally see in combat. This can be used to avoid traps, perils, or being spotted. So the reason I want to show you this is a great way if anything is happening, like a trap, like they say, or there's an enemy you want to sneak around. It might be easier to do that instead of being in real time, to slow it down to turn-based mode so you can be sure that you move out of their line of sight or that you avoid the trap, for example. I'm going to just say finish to close the tutorial, and instead of doing anything right now, I'm just going to click this button that says leave turn-based mode. It looks like a door, and it says exit TB mode, or you can just push shift and spacebar to leave, and I will. You have to wait a little bit before you can enter turn-based mode again, and then when the hourglass shows, you can go back into that. Now, I'm going to just keep it in real-time mode, but I wanted to show you that. Right here, this is an opportunity attack, and it's a reaction. So if you have any reactions that could potentially trigger, they might pop up here just to show you what happens. Now, I have these to set to trigger automatically. You can turn these off in your options if you don't want them to trigger, but generally I want something like my opportunity attack to trigger in combat. Now, we'll look at what this actually is in the context of combat. I can lock my hotbar if I want, and I can increase the amount of rows if I want to put more stuff down here, or decrease like this. Now, at the bottom, you'll see that I can, again, sort my abilities. So right now, everything is selected. But if I want to just choose between my common abilities, which are these, or my class-specific abilities for paladin, or my items, or my passive abilities, or my customs, if I want to, like, you know, put a whole bar of things that I want specifically as custom access to, I can do that if I want. But I'm just going to go back to this red button that has these diamonds to see all of my abilities. Now, the final thing I want to show you, in the bottom right, there is a combat log. It's minimized right now, but you can click on this to expand it. And it says the combat log at the right of your screen keeps track of encounters. Hover over the text to learn more. So anything that people say, you can see it. So my character said these things. Oh, my head. And you have it right here. And you can make this larger, and you can scroll up and down this so you can always read back through dialogue and things like that. This will also show you your skill check rolls, your combat rolls, everything of interest that you want is in here. It's very, very useful, and you can always just hide this or show this as you want. Now, let's say you want to click on something in the environment. By moving the mouse around, it looks like a little hand pointing cursor when it's just the click to move icon. But let's say we mouse over this, and it has the 2 gears, and it says Mind Flayer Pod, and you can see at the top center of the HUD, a contextual menu shows up, just a label that says Mind Flayer Pod. And if I click on this, I can interact with it.
I'd still be stuck inside if we hadn't been attacked.
And my character will respond to this. By the way, you can customize their voice if you want a different voice. I just kind of chose a default voice. I'm fine with it. And if you right-click on this, you can try to use it.
Not getting back in that thing.
But my character doesn't want to do it. So you can left-click to kind of like just inspect or use if that's the option, but you can right-click to get more options. Now, I can go over here to this nursery and see what this is all about.
This is the pool that thing came from. The parasite now writhing behind your eye.
So a narrator speaks to us when we do things, okay? So that's the narrator's voice, and now you're getting into the game. We get a choice. What do we want to do? We saw the dragon try to breathe fire onto this thing. Do we want to reach in? Do we want to investigate it first? Do we want to leave? If I investigate, okay, I will roll something. But if I put my mouse over the bracketed word investigation, you can see this is an intelligence check. So remember, like we were talking about skills, in the world, investigation is a check that looks at your intelligence. We are not trained in the skill intelligence, or investigation rather, so we get no benefit. And we are not the smartest character. We have an 8 intelligence, so we actually get a -1 to all rolls for intelligence. So what this means is we would roll a dice 20, and we would get a number from 1 to 20, and we're going to subtract 1 from whatever we get to see if we can investigate this successfully. And this isn't very favorable, but let's try it anyway. I'm going to investigate. And here it tells us, skill checks. Some dialogue options require a skill check, a dice roll that must meet or exceed a target number. Your character's skills add a bonus to this roll. All right, so I'm just going to close the tutorial. So right now, it's telling us this skill has a difficulty class of 10. So what we need to get is a number 10 or greater. If you meet it or exceed it, you pass the skill check. So I have slightly less than the 50% chance because I have a -1. As we improve and as we get more benefits, we can augment this roll, but right now we don't have a great chance. So I'm just going to click on the dice to roll it, and we get a random number. We rolled really well. So we get a 16, we subtract 1, and we end up getting a 15, which is a successful roll. And so it says success, and we say continue.
The casing is fragile. The slightest touch could cause it to crumble.
So what I'm going to do is, and I love my character's face, by the way. I look like a very serious and concerned dwarven paladin. Love it. I'm going to take that investigation as a clue, and I'm going to say, you know what? This thing looks fragile. I'm not going to touch it. It's been damaged. I don't know what I don't like this ship. I don't want to be in here. This stuff is unknown and concerning. I'm just going to leave. But if you're more curious, like I was in my Let's Play, go ahead and touch it. Interact with things however you want. That's the beauty of a role-playing game, is that you get to choose, you get to make these choices, and you can do whatever makes you happy. Now, by the way, as far as the camera goes, you can move the camera around with WASD, and you can rotate it with Q and E if you don't want to use the mouse wheel. You can zoom in by scrolling the mouse wheel in and out, and it says right here you can center the camera by pushing home or double left click on your portrait to center the camera on you. So if you lose your character, you can do that. And by the way, we are this little white dot in the center of the minimap, and if you mouse over it, it says that's who we are. Now, if you want, you can hold left Alt down to highlight some interactable objects in the world. Usually these are things that you can loot. So this Mind Flayer corpse over here is lootable. The asterisk means that we have not yet interacted with it, and yellow means that this is okay, like this is neutral, we can interact with this thing. If the text is red, it means that it will probably upset people or be considered stealing if we interact with it, so you might not want to loot it. Or if you don't care, you want to be sneaky, you want to try to do it out of people's line of sight and steal stuff, or, you know, liberate them of their goods, however you want to describe that action, go for it. Just know that there could be consequences. There are not consequences typically with yellow things. And notice when I hold left alt, yes, it shows that, but it doesn't show everything. Now, for example, it doesn't show like this nursery. I can move the mouse around. Fire, you see, where was that? Yeah, here. The cursor is saying fire. That means if I walk over that, I'm going to get burned. So you can kind of like look around and just see where is it dangerous, where is it safe. I feel pretty safe about walking over here to this corpse. Now, when I move my mouse over it, you'll see that there's also a little treasure chest icon with that star next to it, and that star asterisk thing means, like, you have not yet looted this. So I'm going to left-click on this, and my character comes over to try to loot it. And you will see that there is a portrait above to show who this is. They have 0 out of 71 health. They're dead. That says it right here when I mouse over. You can see at the top center of the heads-up display. This is a level 8 Mind Flayer, and it had 71 hit points, but it's dead now, and these are the items. It has a topaz. A topaz, you can push T to inspect it, and basically it's saying it weighs 0.02 pounds, or whatever unit of weight you want to describe, and the weight affects how hard this is to carry, how much it's going to affect your encumbrance. We're very strong, so we're not that concerned about this, and it's a topaz, it's super light. But just be aware that some things you pick up, like armor, equipment, it's going to be heavy. And then if you look at this, this is the item's price. So it's worth 60 of the money in this world. So that's fantastic. So this is a nice, valuable gem. I'm going to push escape to kind of, push escape again to close that out. And I'm going to go ahead and just, I can double click this, or I can just click take all. But if I double click it, I pick it up, and I could click take all and it closes it. Now, when I mouse over this mind flayer, you see that the treasure chest icon is opened and grayed out, meaning you search this body. There's nothing here. And if I left alt, you can see that it just says mind flayer and it says empty, meaning like you've searched it and you took everything from it. So there's nothing more to take there. So I'm going to start walking around and exploring this section. I highly recommend, when you're playing Baldur's Gate, that you take your time and explore the map thoroughly. There's secrets everywhere, there's cool things, and
don't waste a step.
It's part of the game to see what's going on in this world. Now,
Someone else got out.
we find out someone else got out of this pod, and
The other survivors.
there might be other people, so we don't need to use it. So let's see who else we can save. Is there anything else that we can get to or do? Just looking around, and it looks like this, moving around, and as I move the camera around, you see how the mini-map moves in the upper right? If I push M, I open up the map. This is the map of your surroundings. You can view quest locations and place custom markers. You can also teleport to waypoints you've discovered by selecting them. Now, there's no waypoints in this ship. We're not going to find any here, but they're extremely awesome later. So right now, when I look at the map, here we are. And I can zoom in on this, and this is the quest is saying go this way to find a way off the nautiloid, which is the ship. I can push J to open up our journal, and it tells us the current quest is to escape. We've been abducted by mind flayers and infected with some kind of parasite. We need to find a way off the ship. All right, great. So that's what we want to do, so let's head for that. It looks like this way is where we need to go, and I'm going to walk over here. And there's a door, and it's closed, and it's a biological door called a sphincter. Not the most pleasant aperture, but we need to get through this. So I'm going to left click and see if I can open it, and I can. So usually left click is like the base action. You can right click on it to close it if you want, or left click on it again. I'm just going to walk through it. And you see that we are in another screen. Now, I'm going to just very quickly take the time to push escape, and I'm going to save the game, just in case anything crazy happens. So I'm just going to save it, and I'm going to say new save, and we're going to say a nautiloid in hell. And by the way, that is where we are. We are in the dimension in this place, Avernus, which is hell. So I'm going to say save the game. Avernus is actually the largest dimension of the 9 hells in this universe. So now, when I move the mouse around, you see there's a dead goblin who's on some kind of experimentation table, and that's terrifying. And just looking around, is there anything else in here? Not that I see. And I hear a voice in my head. That's not ideal. And I'm going to, I clicked throw for some reason. I'm going to go over here and just left click on this goblin. And let's see what he's got. Well, he's got 3 gold pieces, so take the gold. Then this record, we can click on this.
Goblins, their habits and histories flash into your mind.
Okay, awesome. We got some images of goblins. We can sit in that cool chair. There's a brain jar. There's a rune slate. And another one. What are these rune slates? Let's click on these.
A schematic of a nautiloid flashes into your mind. Nerves, sinews, as much living being as ship.
Gross, but kind of interesting. And I'm going to right-click and examine this. It's a brain jar, and it tells you it has 1 hit point. It tells you what it's resistant to, and basically what this means is, like, most stuff you can, like, attempt to destroy it. And if you want to try to break this, for example, it's weak to bludgeoning. So if I hit this with a bludgeoning weapon, a weapon that does bludgeoning damage, I would do double damage. It's strong against piercing, and you can mouse over all these different damage types. It's weak to fire, it's strong to necrotic, and do whatever damage if you want to break open the brain jar. I myself do not.
A feeling penetrates your mind. An anomaly, one like ourselves, unconnected from the whole. Caution.
Cautious indeed. So, I continue to hear some scary
Another
noises.
step forward.
And this is an aquarium.
Mind flayer horticulture.
Yeah. Mind Flayer Horticulture. Great. Let's check out this tablet.
1,000 years of humanoid history. Elves, dwarves, humans, and more flash behind your eyes.
They've been doing some research, apparently. Here's the neural
Seems simple
apparatus.
enough.
This is probably a good idea to interact with this. I want to get my brain fixed up. Oh my god, it's an elevator.
We are here.
Okay.
Here.
So we hear something saying we are here in one of those creepy, like, child demon voices. And, I can't say that I'm
We are trapped.
hugely fond of that. Okay, so in this chair, there's a guy who is reclining, and he has an exposed brain. So,
Help
I don't
us.
think he's okay. He is twitching around, and something is saying, we are here. So let's talk to this guy. See what this is all about. Oh, he twitched. Yeah, there's
Yes,
the brain.
You've come to save us from this place. From this place, you'll free us.
The exposed brain quivers in expectation.
Please. Before they return. They return.
Okay, so we are not speaking with this dude. There is something in the brain. You sound afraid. Why?
The enemy. So many enemies.
Oh, the demons? I think you're past the point of saving. Tell me what to do.
Remove us from this body. From this case. Free us. Please.
Okay. So they want us to remove us, quote, from the body. So I'm talking to a brain. Just another day in the ship of a mind flayer. Who am I talking to, a man or a brain? I think we know the answer to that. Now, I could do investigation, strength, which is to break the skull, and then dexterity, which is gently prise the brain from the skull. I'm strong. I'm a dwarf. I think skull breaking is our best chance. We have a +3 to it. So let's see what this is all about. It's a difficulty class 10. So we need to roll something above a 10. We did not. So we are not going to do a good job here. We try to break it, and we fail. So when you fail the skill check, it says continue. And, I'm going to try to break it. And I smash it. And it didn't work.
The skull holds fast.
Darn. Who am I talking to, a man or a brain?
A newborn. Born new from this husk.
You know no creature like this. One that is more brain than person.
Now you'll notice in the upper left, it says save failed Arcana. So a lot of the time in conversation, there are skill checks that are just being rolled. We have no Arcana, which is like knowledge of the arcane, of magic. We are not a magic user. That sometimes can be confusing because if you're a cleric or if you're a paladin or something like that, a charisma-based caster, you don't have magic in the way that a wizard does by learning it from scrolls and books, or the superpowers that a sorcerer has, like, you get it from your god. So it's not the same kind of knowledge, and even if you did have that knowledge, you have a chance of just failing that, of rolling poorly, and we can either leave or we can destroy the brain. So it's up to us what we want to do. I'm just going to leave this thing here and just kind of, I tried. Now, this is what's really cool about the game that you should understand. everything will be different based on if you can make these skill checks or if you fail them. So your game, if you made that skill check, you would have a different outcome. Something would happen where you would get that brain out potentially. Or if you don't try it, then, you know, it would be similar. So you can't get caught up on it. I mean, if you want to, you could like save it and reload every 2 seconds to try to get the dice roll and cheese it in your favor. And if that's your prerogative, fine. But I usually just roll with the punches. I'm like, all right, well, we didn't make it, so fine, let's go. I'm not sure, like, I'm super excited about helping that thing either way. What does this neural apparatus do? Is it the same kind of thing?
Doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything. All right, let's go back down then. Okay. Riding a cool elevator, just having a great day. And can I use this one? Does this bring the elevator down?
Doesn't do anything.
Nah, it's busted. Surprisingly, it's broken. Now, just as a heads up, of course, you want to walk, like, in the middle here. You can walk on that fire if you're feeling, you know, really, really adventurous, but you will take damage from environmental hazards, so do your best to avoid them. And we're going to go over here. And now look at this view. So the ship is still moving. We are in the dimension of Avernus, which is, you know, the largest of the 9 hells here. And the tentacles are swaying. Smoke is billowing. It looks like Mount Doom in every direction. It's just not a favorable spot, at least in my opinion. This could be your jam. I don't know. Let's check it out. We're looking around. Uh-oh. Somebody's coming out with a sword. Bam. She's jumping. She's flipping.
Abomination. This is your end.
Now, wait a minute. I just got out of the
Your
pod.
head throbs and your skin tingles. Visions rush past. A dragon's wing, a silver sword, and a flash of your face seen through the strange woman's eyes.
Oh. My head. What is this? Squall. You are no thrall. Vlaakith blesses me this day. Together, we might survive.
I mean, I'm hoping so. So, this is the person that we... Well, not person, but this is Lizelle. And we saw her earlier in the opening cutscene. And we also know that she is an origin character from the character creation screen. So she is, you know, a potential ally that we're meeting. And we could talk to her and we could say, you know, who are you?
Who am I? Your only chance of survival.
That's not answering the question. What made you think I was a thrall?
We carry mind flayer parasites. Unless we escape, unless we are cleansed, our bodies and minds will be tainted and twisted. Within days, we will be Geich, mind flayers.
You say that like it's a bad thing. There must be something we can do.
We can do nothing until we escape. That must be our priority.
Okay.
First, we exterminate the imps. Then we find the helm and take control of the ship. We will address the matter of a cure for this infection once we reach the material plane.
The material plane is like the normal place that you would think about with, like, you know, as Earth, or not really Earth, but just what looks more familiar to us than this demon level of hell that we're in. Yes, I want to get back there. Okay, demons are here. And now we get into our first combat in the game. So if you don't know anything about how Baldur's Gate games traditionally work and how Divinity games work, this is a turn-based combat system. So we get ready to fight. Combat happens in rounds, and each participant gets a turn to act. The game pauses around you during combat so you have time to plan your actions. Now, I personally love this because we get to really strategize about what we are doing. In some of the older, like in Baldur's Gate 2, you can play it real time, and you would have to like jam the spacebar every 2 seconds to like pause it as your characters were moving around, and it was really chaotic. This lets you very, very cleanly play in turn-based mode. It's kind of like Pathfinder, if you've ever played Wrath of the Righteous or Pathfinder games, where you can play it like in a kind of a real-time mode, or you can play it in turn-based mode. And the advantage of turn-based mode is you know exactly how far you can move in one turn. You know exactly how many actions you can take in one turn, and that's how this game is going to work. Turn-based. So, during our turn, you can move, take an action, which is the green circle, and take a bonus action, which is the triangle. So this is kind of what we were talking about before, and I didn't really get into actions and bonus actions because they're not as important to understand outside of combat, but inside combat, they're critical. And in the context of combat, they're easier to explain. So right now, look at the top center of the heads-up display. This is the initiative order. I'm sure you saw that there was like a roll before combat started that said initiative. And what that means is everybody in combat, enemies, allies, whomever, if you're aware of the combat, you roll a dice 20 and you determine who gets to act in what order. There is a modifier attached to your initiative, like your dexterity and some skills and things can give you a better chance to go first. The higher your initiative, the sooner you get to act in combat. Now in this case, our character, Dr. in Comp Tutorial, is acting first, right here, and then right after, Lizelle is going to act. And because our party members are acting in union right here, we can actually have Lizelle go before us if we want, and then we would get to go, and then the enemies would get to go in this order. So if you don't want to move with your main character, you can use Lizelle right here, but you get control of both of them. I'm going to go with my main character. Now, just like before, you can move the camera around in the same way. Now, when you see that I'm moving the mouse around, there is this white kind of pulsating line that's coming out from my character, which indicates how far I am moving. Now, I have the game in imperial measurement as I'm an American, but you can set this to metric and it's fine either way. But what this means is, like, remember when we created our character and we had 25 feet of movement per round? That means on this turn, my character can only move 25 feet. And if I try to move beyond that, you see how the line turns red and it says not enough movement. So I need to move under that if I want to get there in one turn. Now, I have the ability to take a double move if I want to use my action to, for example, dash, which would let me move, but that would take my action. And that means I couldn't do anything that was an action like attack. I would just be basically trying to cover a lot of ground or run or something like that if I wanted to dash. So I encourage you to really take your time and explore what you can do. Now, what we can do is I can first just click on actions. These are all the actions that I can do, and these are all the bonus actions that I have. So bonus actions are tremendous because you get one, and it's like a free thing that you can do, kind of is a way I think of it in combat, where you get one of these per turn, and it doesn't take your action. So, like, for example, if I'm sorting by bonus actions, I can drink a potion if I'm hurt, and then still move and still attack. So you get to move, you get to have an action, and you get to have a bonus action. Another thing I can do is use my Divine Sense, and I can gain advantage on attack rolls against Celestials, Fiends, and the Undead. Well, guess what? This enemy right here, this imp, okay, I can right-click on their portrait and say Examine, and you can see right away this will open up a portrait and an information panel about the enemy. I can see how many hit points the imp has. It has 6 hit points. Here are its attributes, just like we have attributes. Here are its resistances, so you can know what it's strong against and weak against. And here are its notable features. It's got dark vision, devil's sight, and it has opportunity attacks, which we also have. This becomes important, and we'll talk about this in a moment. It also has an armor class of 7, which is very low. So we get to roll a dice 20, and we add our proficiency bonus, our 2-hit bonus, our strength, in the case of our weapon, and see if we can meet or exceed a 7 to hit this creature. Now, the thing I want to show you here, though, is it's a fiend. So a fiend is something that is susceptible to our Divine Sense because it works against Celestials, Fiends, and the Undead. So a very powerful thing for us to do as a paladin right here is just pop on the Divine Sense as a bonus action, and make it easier to hit these enemies. By the way, you can also go to this screen and see more information about the enemy, its type, size, weight. Its initiative is -21, which is incredibly low. All right, so we are guaranteed to go first in this, and I'm going to close this panel. Now, another amazing thing you can do as a bonus action is jump. It gives you 10 feet of movement as a bonus action. So, I can only move 25 feet with my dwarf. But if I jump, I can cover 10 extra feet and then move. So it gives you even... you will find yourself jumping all the time in this game. It is such an amazing ability because it's a bonus action. Now, as my actions, I probably want to hit this guy. Now, if I mouse over this dude, it's going to select as a default just a regular attack against this enemy. It's going to show you, there's where I am. Now, the circle that's around my character on the left is like the area that I am threatening around me. And if anyone moves out of that area, if they start next to me or they try to move through that area, in and out of it, I get an opportunity attack against anyone who moves out of my threatened area or tries to move through it, unless they are using an ability that prevents it. The same thing works for them. Now, you can see my character, the line moves up, and there's like a kind of shadowy ghost figure where my person will stand. It's previewing, like, hey, if you want to left-click right here, right now, your character will walk up there and hit this enemy with a 95% chance to hit, is what that percentage means. So that's very good. That's very strong, and it's available. We have enough movement to do that. You see, if I try to move over here, it says not enough movement. You can see that, like, I run out of space. I can't do that. And if I tried to move like this, you see how the imp has a kind of red pointy arrow coming out of the top of its radial that's below its feet? That means that I would provoke an attack of opportunity because I'm running through its threatened area, basically the area right around it, just like I showed you with me. If I try to move through its area like that, it gets to attack me, and we saw that it has the ability to take an attack of opportunity, so we don't want to do that. And now this guy, we also could go over and hit. Now, in my opinion, I want to kind of move over here and go after these two, but you could focus on moving over here. Either way, for this combat, I think we're going to be fine. So what I want to do is I'm going to click on action so I can see everything that I can do. And you can do these things in the order of your choosing. So you can take your action, you can take your move, and you can take your bonus action in whichever order that you want. But you want to make sure that the sequencing is right so that you get to do what you want. So first of all, I'm going to use my bonus action of Divine Sense. All right, so I click it, and then it says 100% click to confirm. All that means is that you're not doing it with just one click of the mouse. If I left click again, I will use it, bam, on myself. You use it on yourself, and now I have Divine Sense. And over here on the left, you see that this has appeared, which are the portraits of my party members. You can see how much health we have, and you can see our buffs. Like in the circles, there's buffs and debuffs, status ailments, effects, and things like that are on your character. I have 2 turns of Divine Sense on my character. Now, currently, if I'm looking at this left panel, which I just pointed out to you, my characters are grouped together. You can notice this by the intertwined portraits. I can break us apart if I want them to act individually and move individually, especially out of combat, but I do not want to do that. I want to keep us grouped together right now, and I'm going to just walk over here and attack this enemy. So I'm going to kind of get the left click, and now notice when I hover the left click over this thing, it says 99% chance to hit, and it says below that I have advantage. That's because of my Divine Sense. So I'm going to just walk over here and do that.
It's over with.
Bam. So now we have hit this thing for 5. Unfortunately, we didn't kill it. We left it with 1 hit point, which is regrettable. Okay, now it says ending your turn. When you're done, you can click the end turn button. Notice how when I hover over the end turn, which is the kind of, when we're out of combat, it's the thing to take you into turn-based mode or go back to real-time mode, but in combat, it is showing you your end turn, and when we mouse over it, it shows us both of our characters who are acting at this moment. So Doctor and Comp Tutorial actually has some movement left, which is what's indicated in this ring around the end turn button. So this gauge that runs around is how much movement we have. We actually have 11 feet left of movement that we could use, but we don't want to move anywhere else. We don't want to move out of this guy's threatened range, because if I do, you can see I provoke an attack of opportunity, which is terrible. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to click end turn. It will immediately then take me over to Lizelle. It's her turn, and I get to control her. So what we want to do with Lizelle is just take an inventory of what are her bonus actions, all right? She has jump, but she has some cool abilities additionally. So first of all, she's got second wind, which is an amazing thing that fighters have, where she can just heal herself. And it's just a bonus action, like she just gets her strength back. We don't need this now, she's at full health, but it's great. Pommel Strike is the one that I want to show you here, though. Normally I would be jumping and then going to attack, but what's cool is that I actually have a bonus action attack. It doesn't do a ton of damage, it only does a 1 dice 4, which means from 1 to 4, but it can potentially daze the enemy, and if I push T to lock the tooltip, I can then mouse over daze, and it says they get disadvantage on wisdom savings throws, and they can't take reactions, and they lose the dexterity bonus to their armor class. So daze is amazing, because number one, reactions are things like attack of opportunity. Like, so if you daze them, they don't get to do their reaction ability, which is an attack of opportunity. And if they had a high dexterity, these guys actually have a bad dexterity, but if they were really had a huge dexterity, they would lose that bonus on their armor class, so it makes them easier to hit. But for right now, I'm just focusing on the fact that this is an extra way to do damage as a bonus action. So can I, with Lizelle, for example, walk over and just hit this guy? Or what about this one? I am just a little bit short of doing that, unfortunately. So one thing I could do is I could jump over and swing my sword, but usually what I like to do in games like this is eliminate a target. I don't want to leave this guy alive at 1 health. So I'm going to just kill something and walk over here with Lizelle and hit it. And we kill it. And you can see that we both get 10 experience points. And now I have some bonus actions here. So I can actually move up here because I have some movement points left with Lizelle. And then now that I'm really close to this guy, I can go to bonus actions and I can pommel strike. Now, when you mouse over it, it defaults to just your basic attack. But if I click pommel strike, I can try to bat this guy. And we hit him and we dazed him. So, you know, we get a little bit of a bonus and we do some damage. And now her turn is done, so I'm going to click end turn. And here comes this bad guy. He's going to come over. He tried to attack me and he missed. This guy is going to use Fiery Bolt, which is a spell, and it missed. All right. Now remember, another great thing about the game is that you don't have to remember everything that just happened in combat. You can click on the combat log, and you can make it larger. And you can, by pushing +++, and you can get more information about everything that happened. And if you mouse over the stuff in the combat log, like, for example, Lizelle using her main hand attack, you can see what that is, you can see what she rolled, you can see how much damage potentially she can do, and you can see how much damage was done, how much experience you gained. So you can go back and look, and it says, oh, the imp missed us. And it says, when I mouse over the word missed, for example, it says, Lizelle has an armor class of 16. The imp tried to attack us. It rolled a 20 with disadvantage, because it's using a spell in a threatened... It's using a spell, and we're up close to it, threatening it, I believe is why it has disadvantage here. And it gets +2 proficiency bonus, and it loses 1 from its intelligence, and altogether, it rolled a 7, then all of its modifiers gave it a +1, and it ended up with an 8, and it needed a 16, so of course it missed us. Now it's back to our turn. Now, look at the character portraits up at the top in the heads-up display. You can see this imp is hurt. The blood fills up on the portrait to show damage. So this red transparency over top is like saying, hey, this thing has taken some damage. I'm going to just close up the combat log a little bit. And what do I want to do? Well, remember, I'm still getting advantage with my main character because I used my divine sense. Now, I can use my oath if I want to put the aura on someone. And let's just see what happens. Okay, that time I did 10 damage and we killed the imp. Now, I'm not going to actually click end turn yet. I'm going to just click on Lizelle and let her go and leave this character with all of his stuff because you can switch up your sequencing. I want to show you that, like, I don't have to do everything with this character and then move to this character. I can freely switch between them. So now Lizelle is right here and we can just swing and we win. And we have defeated the enemies and we're...
surprisingly adequate in battle.
You darn right we're adequate. So now it says companions. Some allies can join you on your adventure. You can control them the same way as you do your own character. Click on a companion's portrait to take control of them. Now, right now, we are still our main character. All that happens when you change who you're controlling is this is the person that will be interacting with the environment and talking to people if you choose to do that. So choose to control whomever gives you the best skills for the opportunity, or whoever you want to, really, if you don't care about that. If you want to just always be your person, that's cool. I'm going to hold all of these imps have stuff. So we're just going to take all of their treasure. In this game, take everything. It's telling us that we can open up the inventory by pushing I to go to this screen to see, you know, this is our... And we push I, it goes to this character screen. You can see here's who we are. Here's all of our ability scores. Here's all of our notable features. This is our paper doll. This is all the items that we have equipped in these slots. This is our armor class. I mean, 17 is amazing. Like, we are doing so well. We have this scale mail that is super, super strong. So we can look at this more in a moment. Let's go to push escape to close it. And I'm going to keep searching all of the enemies that are dead here and taking all their loot. We want to take everything because we can sell it for money. So, also, they might have something really good, like a potion of healing, or this void bulb, which is a throwable, it's like a grenade, kind of, that you can take and use as a consumable item in battle. And I'm going to take this, and there's a crossbow if I want to have some stuff. I'm going to hold Alt. There's a dead thrall over here, which is, you know, some former being that was killed by the Mind Flayer and taken over. And there's some more stuff over here. There's another dead thrall. Run over here. And you see that when we're grouped, in group mode, Lizelle is just going to follow us. Now, this is something that I was worried about, which is your formation. In previous Baldur's Gates, you had to worry about your battle formation. It's not a thing, really, in this game. So, you know, don't worry too much about it, but if you want to keep your strong people up front so that they are in the front of the battle, then control them so that they stand up front. It's another reason why having our main character be stout is good, because it's okay that they're in the front of the battle. And take this. All right. Now, as you saw, too, I just want to explain, when you're done with combat, the game will very, very clearly show you that because your characters will put away their weapons. That means there's no more enemies to fight. That means you're out of combat, and you will go back to real-time mode. Now there's another dead thrall over here. There's this restoration thing, which actually will heal you if you interact with it, but we don't need any healing right now. I'm just going to go over to this thrall, and we're continuing to explore the map. Ooh, this person has some clothing, a sword, and some money. You see how your characters are always talking to each other? It's just kind of part of the immersive storytelling. You can always read that dialogue over here in the combat log if you miss it. And notice how the map, it uncovers, the fog of war uncovers as we explore it. We started here, we moved through here, and the quest is telling us to go over here. So we still have a lot of work to do in this game, and I'm telling you what, I am blown away. I'm having so much fun with this game, and there is still a ton left to explain, and we're going to do this episodically. I'm going to explain more in the next episode of this guide, but I don't want this to be like a 5-hour episode, so we're going to end it here. We did character creation. We talked about everything pertaining to our character, our class, our race, at least enough of it so that you can understand and play the game. I didn't go through every nitty-gritty detail. I like to do that contextually as we go, when it comes up, so that you can see it in action instead of abstractly. And now we have a companion. We are on this ship. We did our first combat, and we're cooking with gas. I hope you're finding this guide to be useful and getting you into the game if you are overwhelmed by how much is going on. If you have any questions about Baldur's Gate 3, please post those in the comments below, and I'd love to help you out. We're going to be going through a lot of this game together in this guide series. I'm going to cover more and more as we go. I'm not going to spoil the story. I'm just going to do it naturally as it evolves, and this way you will be able to really understand what you can do in the game and learn tips and tricks. If you have anything you'd like to share for new players, I'd love any support or help you can give to get new players into this game, to get people enjoying the game, to help demystify the game's concepts. But please do so in a way that's not overwhelming, in a way that you try to imagine somebody who's never played D&D or this game before, and you don't go into the weeds on, min-maxing details. That's for more of an advanced guide. This is for complete beginners, where we're just trying to give a foundation so that people can have fun and enjoy the game, and then get more advanced as once they learn the fundamentals. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I will check you in the next episode. Take care.